What are my rankings of the Oasis studio albums from worst to best? Let's find out. Hey everybody, it's Nick here with you. Welcome back to the Rock Squad channel and welcome to my rock albums ranked for Oasis. Before we get to it, guys, if you love to rock out as much as we do, make sure to subscribe to us here on the Rock Squad channel. Make sure to like this video, we'd appreciate that, and make sure to share this video online with your friends and fellow rock fans and Oasis fans. So yes, by far Oasis is my favorite band of all time. I've been doing this Rock Squad channel for a couple of years now, and I've done some rock albums ranked for a lot of my favorite bands, but I've never done a rock albums ranked for my favorite band of all time, Oasis. Now, when it comes to me being a musician and me doing this Rock Squad channel, Oasis really is the reason why I do any of this stuff. Oasis, Noel Gallagher in particular, has been a huge inspiration for me as a songwriter and guitar player over the years, and there's a reason why I picked up a guitar in the first place. So I thought it would only be appropriate for me to do a rock albums ranked for Oasis here on the channel. Now, not to get too deep into my history with the band, but I got into Oasis when I was about 12 years old, and I heard Wonderwall on the radio.
Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you. By now, you should have somehow realized what you gotta do.
And then after that, things just spiraled from there. I became an Oasis fanatic after Wonderwall Champagne Supernova came out as a radio single here in North America, and that song just blew my mind. When I heard Champagne Supernova, I knew these guys were going to be my favorite band forever. Champagne Supernova, and then I picked up this album, What's the Story, Morning Glory. That was the first Oasis album that I ever got into and ever bought, and since then, it's just spiraled from there. I got into Definitely Maybe after that, and then of course when Be Here Now came out in '97, I was right at ground zero for all the hype of Be Here Now. I had a chance to see Oasis 6 times while they were still a band, so I feel very lucky and fortunate that I got to see them live before they broke up, and then I've kept up with the Gallagher brothers and their solo careers ever since Oasis broke up. And although I'm hoping for an Oasis reunion just like everybody else, I'm actually really happy with the Gallagher's solo careers and the solo material that they put out, and I would like Oasis to get back together, but I really love the solo material they're putting out. I'm actually going to do a rock albums ranked of the Gallagher brothers solo stuff a little bit closer when Noel Gallagher's new album comes out in June, but for now I wanted to do an Oasis rock albums ranked where I rank all, well, 7 of their studio albums, but also I'm going to include the master plan, 8 studio albums here on the channel, definitive rock albums ranked for my favorite band of all time, Oasis. So sometimes with these rock albums ranked videos, I have some criteria that I adhere to. Now for Oasis, it's really easy for me to rank their albums. They have 7 studio albums, but I'm also going to include their 1998 B-side album, The Master Plan. Now, if you know Oasis, you know that they were a great B-sides band, and their B-sides were just as big a part of the Oasis story as their studio albums and singles. Some of their B-sides, like The Master Plan and Acquiesce, these are as good, if not better, than some of the singles that they put out during their career. So I consider The Master Plan to be an essential part of the Oasis discography, even though it's a compilation of B-sides. And I've done that in past rock albums ranked videos before with Smashing Pumpkins and some of the other bands. Biffy Clyro, I did that as well, because I consider those non-album tracks to be almost as essential as the albums themselves. Also, at some time, I want to do an Oasis collection video. Now, by far, Oasis is the band that have collected more of their material and their albums and vinyl and CDs over the years. As you can see, they're at the top here of my CD tower, and I have the vinyls in the back here. So I'll definitely do an Oasis collection video because I think I have a pretty cool Oasis collection, so I want to do that on the channel in the future. But without further ado, let's get to it. The rock albums ranked, a definitive list for my favorite band of all time, Oasis. So coming in at the bottom at number 8 on my list of Oasis rock albums ranked is their album Dig Out Your Soul, the last Oasis studio album that was released in 2008. And I was really excited for this record when it came out, and some of it lived up to the hype. But the thing about this record is the first half of the album is amazing, but the second half of the album is awful. I think the first half of the album features some of the best Oasis songs that they ever put out on record, and the second half features some of the worst Oasis songs that they ever put out on an album. And it was coming off the heels of Don't Believe the Truth in 2005, which for my money is one of the best Oasis albums, and you'll see that it's a lot higher here up on this list. But Dig Out Your Soul, it started out great, but then just dives off a cliff for the second half of the record. Like, take a look at the first half here. You have Bag It Up, The Turning, Waiting for the Rapture, The Shock of the Lightning, and I'm Out of Time. Some of the best songs Oasis have ever put out, and in my opinion, and definitely the strongest kickoff to an album that I think Oasis had in a very long time. But then you look at some of the other songs on Dig Out Your Soul. Get Off Your High Horse Lady is okay. Falling Down, not one of my favorite Noel songs. To Be Where There's Life, not one of my favorite Gem songs. And the last three songs on this record are some of the worst Oasis songs I think they ever put out. So Ain't Got Nothing, which was a Liam song, The Nature of Reality, I'm sorry Andy Bell, you put out some great songs for Oasis, but that is definitely not one of them. And Soldier On, which caps off the album. And it's kind of weird because Oasis had some better songs from these sessions from Dig Out Your Soul. There are a couple of B-sides on the deluxe edition, I Believe in All and The Boy with the Blues, both of which are great songs that were written by Liam and should be included on this album in place of The Nature of Reality and Soldier On. If they had included those songs, I think it would have been much stronger. And although I really still love this record, I love the first half. I think, the album artwork is incredible. And of course, it's the last studio album that we got from Oasis, so it's important in that regard. But in terms of the material, it doesn't quite live up to the rest of the Oasis albums. As an album itself, it doesn't live up to the rest of the Oasis albums. So coming in at number 8, right at the bottom, we're going to put Dig Out Your Soul. Coming in at number 7 on my Oasis rock albums ranked is their 5th studio album from 2002, and that is Heathen Chemistry. And when this album came out, it was important because it was the first Oasis album to really feature the new lineup of the band. When Gem and Andy joined in 2000, Standing on the Shoulder of Giants, the record was already in the can, and so they hadn't had a chance to record a new album with Oasis. So Heathen Chemistry was the first album to do that, and it was the first Oasis album to feature contributions from 4 different songwriters. Liam had one song on Giants, and that was Little James, but this is the first Oasis record to really feature a full track listing of song contributions from Noel, Liam, Gem, and Andy, and it's a great record. Let me I should have said this off the bat. There is no such thing as a bad Oasis record, except maybe for Dig Out Your Soul. But from here on in, I think I like these albums a lot, front to back, and they're still classics for me. It just kind of varies in quality and preference in terms of the songs that made it on the record. As I was saying, Oasis was a big B-side band, so on every record there was songs that were B-sides that should have been on the record. That's just the way it goes with Oasis. But when it comes to Heathen Chemistry, this is actually a really great album, and I really enjoyed having Oasis back to feeling like a band after Bonehead and Guigsy left in '99, and they had the new lineup with Andy and Gem. But let's take a look at this track listing. The Hindu Times, which I think is a fantastic Oasis single, great vocal from Liam. Force of Nature, a great song from Noel. Hung in a Bad Place, which was the first song that Gem wrote for Oasis. That's really great. Stop Crying Your Heart Out is an all-time Oasis classic. Songbird, same deal. Little by Little, a great Noel song. There are a couple of weak tracks on here. I think, it's a crime when it comes to the Andy Bell song that was featured on Heathen Chemistry. A Quick Peep, not the best Andy Bell song to feature on this record. It's an instrumental. It's a little bit of filler. It doesn't really fit on this album. They would have been much better suited to put Thank You for the Good Times from the Stop Crying Your Heart Out single on this, just my opinion. But A Quick Peep was so-so. Probably All in the Mind, She Is Love, which is a great Noel song. And then the last couple of songs on this record are a little bit weak for me. Born on a Different Cloud and Better Man. There are better songs that Liam wrote for Oasis, particularly on the albums after this. But this is still a great album. It was produced by Oasis, the first album that featured the new lineup as a complete unit with all 4 of those members contributing songwriting. It's still a great album. But coming in at number 7, we have Heathen Chemistry. Coming in at number 6, we have the 4th studio album from Oasis coming out in 2000, and that is Standing on the Shoulder of Giants. Now, I can remember being so psyched for when this record came out in 2000. That was the first time that I saw Oasis live at Maple Leaf Gardens, so that was an absolutely crucial moment for me as an Oasis fan. As a music fan, that was absolutely incredible because I'd been a fan of theirs for a couple years already, and that was the first time that I saw them live. And if you were an Oasis fan between 1997 and 2000, you know that there was like this this desert with an Oasis in the middle, this desert of music from Oasis where they didn't put out any material for a good 2.5 years, which was really hard for Oasis fans at the time. So when this came out in 2000, it was really, I just couldn't believe the hype. And of course, there was membership changes for Oasis at the time when Bonehead and Guigsy left in 1999, and then Gem and Andy Bell joined, and they got a new lineup, a Mark II lineup of Oasis that would lead on into the 21st century. And the album itself, I think, lived up to the hype for the most part. I was so excited when it came out. I love the songs on it. I think it established a new sound for Oasis and established a way forward for the band. It was different than what they did on Be Here Now, which we'll get to that in a little bit. But it was a refreshing release from Oasis. I still love the album artwork on this. the New York skyline stuff still looks absolutely incredible. Sorry for the ring light, but still love this album, and I think it's one of the best designed and coolest looking Oasis albums that they ever put out. And then you look at the track listing, right? Fucking in the Bushes became their opening song that they did at every gig. It gets people so riled up when they play that at the start of their shows. So that's still a great song. Go Let It Out, which I think is still one of Oasis's best singles, just recently celebrated an anniversary. Who Feels Love, experimental for Oasis at the time. It was cool that they were doing new things with the Indian sounds and a lot of synthesizers and that kind of thing. Maybe doesn't hold up as much as it used to, but still a good song. There are some weak songs on here, don't get me wrong, but overall I dig the vibe of the album. Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is, Little James, not the strongest songs. Again, Liam's first songwriting contribution for Oasis, and he has written way better songs since then. But then the second half of the record, you know, in contrast to Dig Out Your Soul, the second half of the record is great. So we have Gas Panic, Where Did It All Go Wrong, Sunday Morning Call, I Can See a Liar. I actually like that song better now than I used to. And Roll It Over, which is a great Oasis ballad too, to end this record. So I think it was maybe not their best album, but at the time I remember being so psyched about it, and it's still an album I think that holds up a lot to this day. So coming in at number 6 on my rock albums ranked for Oasis is Standing on the Shoulder of Giants.
Go let it out, go let it in, go let it out.
Coming in at number 5 for Oasis, we have their 6th studio album from 2005, and that is Don't Believe the Truth. Now, we already talked about Heathen Chemistry, which was a great album that featured Oasis's new lineup and featured contributions from Liam, Noel, Andy, and Gem. But for me, Don't Believe the Truth is the better version of Heathen Chemistry. You know, they were cooking a little bit on Heathen Chemistry, but then they were really cooking on Don't Believe the Truth. The songwriting, I think, on this is some of the best songwriting that they had since the Morning Glory days, since their heyday in the mid 90s. And the performances are great as well. Everybody sounds great on this album. All the members of the band, especially Liam, his voice sounds great on this. And it was a great just record and an era for Oasis. To me, this was the last time they were firing on all cylinders. Obviously, this led into Dig Out Your Soul and the breakup in 2009, which was disappointing. But at least we have this. This is the best late era Oasis album for my money. So you have great songs on here like Turn Up the Sun, Mucky Fingers, Lila, Love Like a Bomb, The Importance of Me Being Idle, The Meaning of Soul, Guess God Thinks I'm Able, Part of the Queue. I'm just reading out the tracks. Keep the Dream Alive, A Bell Will Ring, and Let There Be Love. I think in comparison to Standing on the Shoulder of Giants and Heathen Chemistry, that Don't Believe the Truth has the best Oasis track listing of any latter half Oasis album from their career. This is probably their best record since Morning Glory. Obviously, there's some other ones in here as well, but for my money, this is still the best Oasis record for the second half of their career. So coming in at number 5, we have Don't Believe the Truth. Coming in at number 4, as I said, I know this is a B-side compilation of some non-album tracks from the Definitely Maybe and Morning Glory eras, but coming in at number 4 on my list of Oasis rock albums ranked is The Master Plan. This came out in 1998 and compiled B-sides actually from Definitely Maybe, Morning Glory, and Be Here Now, and I love the album cover on The Master Plan. This is a beautiful record to look at. I just love the way this album looks and feels, and the track listing can't be argued with, because we were saying Oasis was a great B-sides band. They had so many B-sides and so many songs that weren't on the albums that deserved attention as much as the singles and songs that got more attention on their studio albums. And I think this was a great way for Oasis fans maybe who weren't as into the band at the time. Like I had already heard everything on this album when it came out. I had all the B-sides and the singles at the time anyway, so I had heard everything. But maybe for the more casual fan, this was an easier way for them to get those non-album tracks than special ordering them and doing imports at HMV like I used to when I was like 12 and 13 years old. And you get so many great songs on The Master Plan. That's why this is on here and why it's essential, because if you don't have it on the list, you're really leaving out a huge part of the Oasis discography. It kicks off with Acquiesce, which is arguably their best non-album track that they ever released. Talk Tonight, which is one of my favorite Noel Oasis acoustic songs. Going Nowhere, which is the only B-side from Be Here Now. The Swamp Song, an incredible instrumental that I love from Oasis. Their cover of I'm the Walrus by the Beatles, Listen Up, Rocking Chair, Half the World Away, Stay Young, which is one of the best Be Here Now B-sides. The Master Plan, like that title track alone. The Master Plan, I think might be the best song ever written. I know that's a crazy thing to say, but it's such an incredible song, and yeah, it needed to be featured. It needed to have its own album to make it an official part of the Oasis album discography. So although I know it's not an official Oasis studio album, for me it's still one of the best things they ever put out. So coming in at number 4, we have The Master Plan. Coming in at number 3, we have What's the Story, Morning Glory, the second Oasis studio album from 1995, the album that turned them into international superstars with such hits as Wonderwall and Don't Look Back in Anger and Champagne Supernova. And this is the album that got me into Oasis when I was a young lad in 1995, 1996. I heard Wonderwall on the radio, and then that changed everything. And then I heard Champagne Supernova on the radio, and that changed everything even more. I remember going to Tower Records in Toronto and buying this on CD. I still have it up here, and then I have this reissue vinyl from a bunch of years ago. This album changed my life. It's hard to say anything else other than that this album changed my life and turned me into the music fan and musician that I am today. And it's in at number 3. You'd think this would be number 1, but part of it is like it does have those iconic tracks, and because it has those huge iconic tracks, it's still a great album. But I find that I've just heard those songs so many times that I don't listen to it as much as I used to. But come on, you got to look at this album. Hello, Roll With It, Wonderwall, Don't Look Back in Anger, Hey Now. The vinyl has Bonehead's Bank Holiday on it, obviously. Some Might Say, which is one of my favorite Oasis songs, has been since I was younger. Cast No Shadow, She's Electric, Morning Glory, and Champagne Supernova. Also, the little gaps in the album kind of take away from it for a little bit for me, because it just means gaps in the track list. I think this could have been a stronger album if they included some of those non-album singles from the Morning Glory era, which are so iconic. Like can you imagine if the Master Plan or Acquiesce was on this album? It would totally just change the vibe of the album, and maybe for the better, maybe for worse. I'm not too sure, but either way, it's an iconic album. It's still one of my favorite albums of all time. When it comes to Oasis, there are 2 more that I like better than this, but this album changed my life, and there's no arguing with that. So coming in at number 3 on my rock albums ranked for Oasis, it's What's the Story, Morning Glory. Coming in at number 2 on my Oasis rock albums ranked is their 3rd studio album from 97, and that is Be Here Now. Now, when I say Morning Glory changed my life, Be Here Now changed my life as well. It really solidified who I was as a music fan. This album came out when I was in 9th grade, and I would literally listen to this album every morning before I went to high school. So when I talk about albums that changed my life, this is definitely one of them. And, years ago, a younger Nick would have put this as number 1 on his rock albums ranked for Oasis, but it slipped down just a little bit because my tastes have changed a little bit since I've gotten older. But this album really did change my life when I was in grade 9, when I was a young lad in high school. So there's a lot of nostalgia and a lot of memories attached to this. And the songs, like Do You Know What I Mean, is probably one of my favorite Oasis songs, if not my favorite Oasis song. When I first heard that song, it blew my mind. Like I put it in my Discman just to show you how old I am. I put it in my Discman, and that song absolutely changed my life. All 7.5 minutes of it, with all the bleeps and bloops and 3-minute long intro. That song is still badass in my opinion, and the kind of the badass vibe of the album continues from there with My Big Mouth, Magic Pie, Stand By Me, which was a great single, Hope I Think I Know, Girl in the Dirty Shirt, All Around the World, all 9 minutes of it. It's getting better, man. I actually remember when this album came out, I was so excited for it to come out. I was so hyped for it after becoming a fan on Morning Glory and going back and listening to Definitely Maybe. I was so hyped and excited for it. I remember buying it. Again, it's up here on the tower. I remember buying it and just listening to it first time. I didn't love it the first time that I heard it. I was actually not really into it. And I thought, like, am I going to hate this Oasis album? But it's Oasis, so it didn't really take me long for me to start loving it and for it to become a huge part of my life. And it still is. I still listen to this album all the time, and it's still a fantastic album. Regardless of my nostalgia, I know Oasis kind of went off the rails with this album, and a lot of people think it's bloated and overdone and they were doing too many drugs, which is absolutely true. But if you're like me and you grew up and you were around when this album came out, then you definitely have some major nostalgic vibes for Be Here Now. So coming in at number 2 on my Oasis rock albums ranked is Be Here Now.
Made a meal and threw it up on Sunday. I've got a lot of things to learn.
And coming in at number 1 on my Oasis rock albums ranked is their debut album from 1994, and that is Definitely Maybe. Like I just said, if you had asked a younger Nick a bunch of years ago what his favorite Oasis album was, he might have put Be Here Now at the top. But my musical tastes have changed. Like, I still love Oasis, but the things that I enjoy about Oasis almost have changed over the years. And when it comes to Definitely Maybe, this is the hardest rocking, most straight ahead, most kick-ass Oasis album that they ever put out. When you go to Morning Glory, not to knock on Alan White, because he was a great band, he added a lot of dynamic to the band. When you go to Morning Glory and Be Here Now, there's not as much kick and as much punch. When I like music nowadays, I really like the kick and the punch of music, and the drums especially on records, and that's something that Tony McCarroll did in spades on Definitely Maybe. So shout out to Tony McCarroll, that he's definitely the drummer that I like at this age more than I was younger. And yeah, this album is just really punchy and really rocky, and it really isn't. Oasis didn't really ever come back to doing specifically what they did on Definitely Maybe on any of their past, any of the records after that. And to me, this is them at their punkiest and their most aggressive and their rockiest and just their most raw. And over the years, that is something that I've just gravitated to a lot more. And this album is something that I listen to a lot more. The sound of the album is great as well. But when you look at the track list, it explains itself. Rock and Roll Star, Live Forever, Columbia, which to me is one of the best Oasis rockers, Supersonic, Bring It On Down, Cigarettes and Alcohol. I don't think there's any Oasis song after Supersonic that has the punch and the kick of those drums like that song has. And the rest of the album is just fantastic. Obviously Slide Away and Dixie's Dinner and all the great songs on Definitely Maybe. It's just over the years, I've really found myself gravitating towards the raw nature and the raw power of Definitely Maybe, and just the sound of a rock band really just firing on all cylinders that is provided on this record. So it's an album that may not have made number one in the past, and a younger Nick might have voted for one of these other albums to be in at number one, but the older Nick, the more wise Nick, the one that likes to rock out more than he did when he was younger, likes Definitely Maybe. So I'm going to put it in at number one on my Oasis rock albums ranked.
I'm feeling supersonic. Give me gin and tonic. You can have it all, but how much do you want it?
All right, guys, that is it. That is my rock albums ranked for my favorite band of all time, Oasis. I couldn't continue this channel. I couldn't move forward until I did a rock albums rank for Oasis, because they're my favorite band ever, and I just feel like I had to do that. It was a rite of passage for me to talk about Oasis here on the channel. Let me know what your favorite Oasis albums are in the comments below. Oasis fans, especially us here in North America, we're a rare breed, so it's nice to always chat and congregate and talk about Oasis with fellow fans and talk about the Gallagher brothers. So let me know your favorite Oasis albums in the comments below. Make sure to like this video, appreciate that. Make sure to subscribe to us here on the Rock Squad channel so you don't miss out on future videos. Make sure to share this video online with your friends and fellow rock and Oasis fans. Make sure to follow us on social media on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Rock Squad Pod. And if you love music like Oasis and Foo Fighters and Smashing Pumpkins and Weezer, you should check out my band. We're called Fools Union. We have a new single out there called America that is very Oasis-y, so you can check us out at foolsunion.com. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Until the next video, rock on, everybody.